Hi, welcome back to Swedish Plant Guys. Today we're talking about how to prune your apple trees. This is one of the most common questions we get this time of year. So we thought we'd go through it with you together and going to divide this video up into 3 parts. And the first one is why. Why do we cut or prune our apple trees? And when do we prune our apple trees? And the most important one of all, how do you prune it? Starting off, why do we prune our apple trees? Well, you don't have to prune your apple tree. Nature takes care of that just itself. But apple trees become quite large. So if you don't prune them, they can be maybe 5, 6 or 7 meters high. And then you have a problem reaching the fruits to acquire them at the end of the season. Then you have to wait until the apple tree drops it and you can pick it up. And by pruning it, you're cutting away branches. And by cutting away branches, you're letting in more light and more air inside of the crown of the tree. Now you have a small rule that you should consider, and that is that almost every leaf on the apple tree should get sunlight or light on it. If you have something that is shading a leaf somewhere in the tree, that means that you haven't pruned it enough. So by cutting it, you are getting a more airy and lighter crown, which means that you're going to get more fruits, bigger fruits, and juicier fruits that you want to have. Moving along to when you should be pruning your apple tree. You can prune your apple tree almost all year round. There is one period that you shouldn't prune it, and that is during spring. So when winter is leaving and spring is coming, it's beginning to get a bit warmer. The tree is getting ready to flower, and it's getting ready to produce as much flowers as possible. And if you are cutting it or pruning it at this time of year, you're going to disturb the tree and you're not going to get as much flowers. And in the end, you're not going to get as much fruit that you want from the tree. However, after that, you can prune it almost any time of the year. But usually you prune it in 2 periods of the year. And the first period is what we in Sweden call Jas. And that is the month that starts with these 3 letters. And that is July, August, and September. When you reach that point, the apple tree already has all of its fruit on it. And it's only giving all its nutrients to give as juicy and good fruits as possible. Then you can start prune it if you want. You can take away what we call the water shoots or water sprouts, and you can cut it a little bit. It's also like that if you have a very old apple tree, it can be better to prune it during July, August and September, because it's not going to give as much water shoots as if you're going to prune it some other time of the year. So during July, August and September is a good time to start pruning your apple tree. However, it's more likely that you're pruning it during the winter time, maybe in January or February. And that is historically because the gardeners, that was the time of the year when the gardeners had a lot of time. Nothing else happened in the garden, so they tried to do the things that they could do. And one of the things they could do is to prune the apple trees. So that is one of the main reasons why we are pruning it in January or February. But there is another big advantage by pruning it during winter time. And that is when you prune a tree, you are cutting it and making wounds on the tree. And during the winter time, you don't have any fungus that are living or moving, and you don't have any pests or anything that can attack those wounds. So you have a big advantage by cutting in the winter time. But by cutting in the winter time, you are more likely to get a lot of water shoots. And we're going to go into what water shoots are later in the movie. Okay, moving along to the most important thing, that is how to prune your apple tree. First of all, and this is maybe the most important thing you get out of this video, is that you cannot do something wrong here. You don't have to worry, because if you should do something wrong, you can always fix that the next year. So you don't have to worry when pruning your apple tree, because it's going to be fine. And by that I mean that you can prune your apple tree any way you like. If you want the tree to have an umbrella-shaped form, you can. If you want the tree to have a perfect pear-shaped form, you can. That is all up to you. And that is how you prune it that will make this form. But you don't have to worry about it, because it's going to be fine. That being said, remember one thing. Never take away more than 1/3 of the crown on the apple tree every year, and then you'll be fine. Now, when you're finished with the first step, you have looked at the tree and you know approximately how you want to shape it the next 5 up to 10 years. Then the next thing is to look inside of the crown of the tree and remove all branches that are dead or injured. And because these points of the tree can be a hazard to you, because it's usually there you're going to get fungus or some form of pests attacking the tree. So you need to take away all the damaged or injured branches. Now, how do I know if a branch is injured or damaged? Well, go around the tree and look at it quite close. And if you can see a branch that doesn't have any buds, doesn't have any activity on it, then probably that branch is dead and you can cut it away. But it can also be very obvious. You can see that a branch has been snapped off but hasn't fallen off the tree. Then you need to cut that off as well, because you have an open wound that can be attacked by fungus or by some form of pests. Now, the next thing you should do is to take away any large branches that are in the way of how you want the tree to look in a couple of years. By that I mean some of the maybe thicker, bigger branches. So first you took away the dead branches. Now you look at the big branches to see, and that is the vision you have of the tree in 5 or 10 years. Which of these thicker branches are in the way of that vision? Now, this specific tree here in my garden have actually been cut the wrong way for a couple of years, or a lot of years. I've been pruning this tree for about 10 years, a little more than 10 years. However, we were not that interested in the fruits here. We had this tree for one reason, and one reason only. And that was to get a shady spot on the patio during lunch hour in the summer. So the sun was in a perfect place here, that the apple tree could give us some shade when we had our lunch. So that is why I pruned this tree maybe the wrong way. However, even though I pruned it wrong, it has been giving a lot of fruits. They've been delicious, maybe too much fruits. So we didn't even know what to do with it. But now we are not using the patio the same way anymore. So I started last year to prune it more the right way. And by that I mean that you want to, like I said before, have a lot of light inside of the crown. There is too much branches going on in this tree. The small rule that every leaf on the tree should get some light or sunlight, it doesn't apply to this tree. So we're going to prune this by cutting off some of the bigger branches to make the crown more airy and to let in a lot more light, which means that the tree is going to be healthier and provide larger and more juicy fruits. So by moving closer to the tree, we're going to start to cut off some of the thicker branches to make it more airy inside of the crown. Now we're going to use a couple of tools for this. Now first of all, you need to have a very sharp pruning shearer. We call it sekatöv in Swedish. And see to it that it is clean, that you have cleaned it off maybe with some soap or something, so that you're not taking something with you from another tree to give to this tree. And also we're using a garden saw as well. Now these are very good for using and pruning inside of apple trees like this, because it's small and it's very, very sharp, and it makes a clean cut so that you don't have any problems with pesticides attacking the wound. Okay, looking at this branch here, you have a very thick stem that is moving out and branching in every way possible here, and you don't want that, because we wanted to air out the crown. So think like this: all the branches that are moving into the crown you want to remove, and all the branches that are moving out of the tree you can keep, because you want, for instance, this branch here, when it gets leaves, it is going to prevent the light to hit the other branches here. So that's why we will remove this one here, because it's moving into the crown and it's taking away all the light to all the other parts of the branches. Now to do this, I actually need help. Or you can do it in two ways. One way is to, because this is quite a heavy branch, if I started to cut this down here, it would, when I was almost finished and almost through, it can fall on itself because it's very heavy, and you can get a cut that you don't want to. You can actually injure the bark on, and if you injure the bark, then you could get some pesticides that can get into the tree. So what you can do to prevent this is you can cut it in two parts. So you can take it away a little bit further up and then take it away where you want to take it away, because then it's not that heavy. Or you can get help from someone to hold the stem while you're cutting it. Hey, look, another Swedish plant guy. Perfect. So we're going to make the cut. Now when it's big branches like this, you want to make the cut as close to the bigger branch as possible, as if when you've made the cut there were no branch to begin with. It should be smooth and even with the bigger branch. So all the way down here. You can almost see straight away how much more light came into the crown here. Now if I cut this branch a little bit up, maybe left 5 centimeters of it or 10 centimeters, what would happen is that next year you would get a lot of water shoots on that branch and you'd have to cut it again. But by cutting it all the way down to the main stem, you won't get any more branches from it. So now it's gone and it will never come back again. Now we're not finished on this branch yet. I have some more that I want to take away. Now other general rule is that when you have a branch that is moving downwards and not upwards, you want to take it away as well. For instance, this branch here is moving downwards. However, this one I'd like to keep, because when I step back and look at this tree, I want to have a nice shape on it. And this branch here creates that nice round shape of the tree. So I want to keep that. However, we have a branch here that is never going to get any light because the branches over it are going to shade it. So this one I also want to take away. Now take it away all the way into the larger branch. So you don't leave anything, because if you leave anything, you're going to regenerate from that spot. So take it away all the way in. Okay, now there is one more branch from this large one here that I want to remove, and that is this one up here, because this also shades the ones further out on the crown. So I want to remove that to open up the crown even more. So this time I need help again. Now by going around the tree and doing this, just following the main stem of the tree and then the larger branches out, you can just look at every large branch and thin it out so that you get more air into the crown. Okay, moving along, moving out a bit on the branches, where the branches are beginning to get a bit thinner, like this one we have here. It's too crowded and we want to take away a lot of this to make it more airy inside of the crown. So we're going to start by taking away this branch here, because this branch here is moving into the crown and it's also crowding the main stem here, that is this one going out here. So we start by cutting this one off like that, and then you can see that when we get all the way out into the edge of the branches, you have small branches looking like this. And this is actually what we call a water sprout or a water shoot. And this is what has been growing out last year. And it's usually very straight. This one is moving downwards, down to the ground, but you also have ones that are moving straight up into the air. Usually they are straight moving, going straight up into the air. Now these are not going to provide any fruits this year, because an apple tree gets its fruit on the second year branches. But this one is moving downwards and also a little bit inwards to the crown, so it's going to go away all the way down to the branch. We don't want that at all. Like that. We have another one here. We don't want that either. But when we get a little bit up in this branch, we have a small branch that looks like this. It's a little bit crooked and it looks very, very old. But here we have what we call a fruit sprout. This is going to become a flower and then hopefully a fruit. So we're going to save that one. And you can easily see which one is a water sprout and which one is a fruit bud or a fruit sprout, because the water shoots or water sprouts are usually very straight and very long, where the fruit sprouts or fruit buds are small and crooked, and you want to keep those on the branches because this is where you will get your fruit and your flowers. Now moving along this stem, we have another branch here that is also going down to the ground. Now you don't want to keep that either, so I'm going to cut this off right here. So what we're ending up here in the edge of the larger branch here is a water shoot or water sprout that is going straight up. Now I don't want to keep this because it's going straight up into the crown. So I'm going to cut this down. And by looking closer to the water shoot, you have all these small buds on its small stem. Now these are not fruit buds. They're not going to generate any flowers or any fruits. These are what we call wood buds. This is where this is going to branch out next year from these buds. So when I cut this water shoot down, I want to cut it somewhere where you have a bud like this that is going out from the crown and not inwards. Because if I cut it at a bud that is going inwards, it's going to regenerate into the crown. So this one I'll actually cut, I think, right about here. And making the cut, I'll make a about 45 degrees angle of the cut, like this. And I do that because then the water can just slide right off the cut, so that the water doesn't stay here and can produce a rot or something on the water shoot. Now it's going to regenerate from this bud out of the crown. And this branch is now completely free. No, it's not. We have another water shoot here that we're going to remove. Like that. So a quick summary. Start by looking at the big picture. Look at all of the tree and make a vision of how you want the tree to look in a couple of years. Then you move a little bit closer, looking at the thicker branches. Which ones do you have to remove to move yourself closer to that vision you have of the tree in a couple of years? Then you go even smaller and take away some of the smaller branches, and you take away all the branches that are dead, injured, or moving into the crown or down to the ground, so that you are airing out and letting in the light into the crown. And then you go out even further to the edges of the apple tree where you have the water sprouts. And you need to cut those away, cut them down, and just by trying to follow the natural flow of the bigger branches. Now by doing that, you will get a healthier, better tree. Now we're going to show you when we are cutting this tree from start to end, and I hope you enjoy. So that's all we have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this video on how to prune your apple tree. Now, if you have any question for us, don't hesitate to make that in the commentary section below, and we will try and take that up in a Q&A video. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you get every video that we put out. And until next time, hej då!